For over 400 years, the descendants of Abraham, the Israelites, found themselves trapped in Egypt, not as guests, but as slaves. Their lives were a cycle of brutal labor under the whips of Egyptian masters. They cried out, their prayers for deliverance rising like smoke to the heavens. And in this darkest hour, a story of hope began in the most unlikely of places. Amidst the decree that all newborn Hebrew boys be drowned in the Nile, one mother, Jochebed, defied the Fido. She placed her baby in a basket of reeds and set him adrift on the river, trusting in God's providence. The basket floated down the Nile, right into the hands of Pharaoh's own daughter. She named the boy Moses, meaning drawn from the water, and raised him as a prince of Egypt. Though he grew up in the splendor of the palace, Moses never forgot his roots. His heart ached for his people. One day, he saw an Egyptian mercilessly beating an Israelite slave. In a flash of righteous anger, Moses struck the Egyptian down. Fearing for his life, he fled Egypt, becoming a fugitive in the land of Midian. For 40 years, he lived as a simple shepherd, a prince turned outcast. He married Zipporah and started a family. His past life in Egypt, a distant memory. But God had not forgotten his people, nor had he forgotten Moses. While tending his flock on Mount Hor, the mountain of God, Moses witnessed a miracle. A bush was engulfed in flames, yet it was not consumed. As he drew closer, a voice boomed from the fire. Moses! Moses! It was the voice of God. He revealed himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and declared that he had seen the suffering of his people. He had a mission for Moses, to return to Egypt and lead the Israelites to freedom. Moses, full of doubt, questioned his ability. Who am I to do this? He asked. But God promised to be with him, giving him miraculous signs to prove his divine authority. With his brother Aaron at his side, Moses returned to the land of his birth and stood before the most powerful man in the world. The Pharaoh, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel." Moses declared, "Let my people go." Pharaoh's heart was hard. He scoffed at their request and increased the Israelites' workload, making their suffering even more intense. So began a divine contest of wills. God unleashed a series of 10 devastating plagues upon Egypt, each one a demonstration of his power over the gods of Egypt and a direct challenge to Pharaoh's authority. First, the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, turned to blood. Then came frogs, swarming every corner of the land. Gnats and flies descended in thick, suffocating clouds. A terrible pestilence struck down Egypt's livestock, while the Israelites' animals remained untouched. Boils afflicted the Egyptians, followed by a hailstorm of fire and ice that destroyed their crops. A swarm of locusts devoured whatever the hail had missed. Then, a profound darkness covered Egypt for 3 days. A darkness so thick it could be felt. With each plague, Pharaoh's defiance grew, his heart hardening like stone. He would promise to let the people go, only to break his word once the plague was lifted. Finally, the 10th and most terrible plague was announced. God would pass through Egypt, and the firstborn son in every Egyptian household would die, from the son of Pharaoh on his throne to the son of the slave girl at her mill. To escape this fate, the Israelites were given specific instructions. Each family was to take a perfect lamb, sacrifice it, and paint its blood on the doorposts of their homes. That night, they were to roast the lamb and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, dressed and ready to leave at a moment's notice. This meal would be called the Passover because when the angel of death passed over Egypt, he would see the blood and pass over the homes of the Israelites, sparing their firstborn. That night, a cry of anguish rose from every Egyptian home. Pharaoh's own son lay dead, broken. He finally summoned Moses and Aaron in the middle of the night. "Go," he commanded. "Leave my people and take your flocks and herds and go." Wasting no time, the Israelites gathered their belongings and began their great exodus. After 430 years of bondage, they were finally free. A pillar of cloud guided them by day, and a pillar of fire by night. a constant reminder of God's presence leading them. But their freedom was once the grief subsided. Pharaoh's heart hardened yet again. Regretting his decision, he rallied his army, his finest chariots and horsemen, and pursued the fleeing slaves. The Israelites found themselves trapped between the charging Egyptian army and the vast expanse of the Red Sea. Fear turned to panic. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? They cried to Moses. But Moses stood firm. Do not be afraid, he proclaimed. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Then, as commanded by God, Moses raised his staff over the water. A strong east wind blew all night, and the waters of the Red Sea parted, creating a dry path through the very heart of the sea with walls of water on their right and on their left. The Israelites walked through on dry ground. The Egyptians charged after them into the seabed. Once every Israelite was safely on the other side, God told Moses to stretch out his hand again. The walls of water collapsed, crashing down upon the Egyptian army. Chariots, horsemen, and soldiers were all swallowed by the sea. Not one of them survived. On the far shore, the Israelites watched in awe, their fear replaced with triumphant praise. They had witnessed the mighty hand of God deliver them from their enemies. Their journey was far from over. They now faced a new challenge: the vast, unforgiving wilderness of the Sinai Desert. The land was barren, food and water were scarce. The people began to grumble, longing for the familiarity of Egypt, even in its slavery. If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, but you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death, they complained. But God, in his mercy, provided for them. Each morning, a thin, flaky substance like frost appeared on the ground. They called it manna, which means, what is it? It tasted like wafers made with honey, and it sustained them for 40 years. When they cried out for water, God instructed Moses to strike a rock at Horeb, and from it, fresh water gushed out, quenching the thirst of the entire nation. After 3 months of travel, the Israelites arrived at the foot of Mount Sinai. The mountain was shrouded in a thick cloud, with thunder, lightning, and the sound of a loud trumpet blast. The people trembled in fear as God descended upon the mountain in fire. God called Moses to the summit, into his very presence. There, amidst the awesome display of divine power, God gave Moses the foundation for a new society, a covenant that would bind him to his people. He inscribed on 2 tablets of stone 10 commandments, a moral and spiritual law to guide their lives. These commandments, from honoring God alone to respecting one's parents and neighbors, were not just rules, but a blueprint for a life of holiness and community. It was a promise of a new beginning, a path to becoming a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, set apart for God. The slave nation, now free, was being forged into the people of God on their long journey to the promised land. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through history. If this story inspired you, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next video.